The strength of the Canadian justice system is that it recognizes that it's made mistakes that have resulted in the conviction of innocent people. Its weakness is that it continues to make those mistakes.
I was 19 years old, I was married at the time. There was a knock, police officers were at my door. I was charged with break and enter and assault with a weapon. Gotta cut it.
The Association in Defence of the Wrongly Convicted was created in 1993, and it really has two purposes: to try and uncover wrongful convictions that have already occurred, to prevent them happening in the future as much as we can.
To sum it up, basically I lost pretty much everything.
Well, the justice system makes mistakes because, as I said, it's administered by human beings, and human beings will make mistakes.
I pled my innocence. Everything just seemed so bleak for me. My lawyer advised me to plead guilty. He just said, it's either 10 years or 2 years. It's your choice and it's your pick.
I can't imagine an event in a human life that is more stigmatizing and more stripping of one's sense of worth. These are years where they feel hopeless. There are not supports that will acknowledge their claims to innocence.
Everybody had me guilty. Paul Bernardo confessed to this crime, ended up being the perpetrator. I did 2 years less a day. Coming out of prison, I couldn't even get a job. People don't know what kind of pain it is.
We have wrongful convictions, they are a problem, and we can't be in any way complacent and view the rules of 25 or 30 years ago as necessarily sufficient.
I think it's important to recognize that all of us are potential victims of wrongful convictions. You think of a person like Ron Dalton, who was a bank manager whose wife chokes to death and a forensic error is made that sets in train a very long and taxing prosecution process.
Well, when my wife died in 1988, the local hospital pathologist, who had no forensic training and didn't get any experience in a small jurisdiction like Newfoundland, thought it was a homicide. He thought that she had been manually strangled, and I was arrested the following day and charged with her murder.
The pathologist came at his inquiry believing the matter was a homicide.
The fact that I got a second chance at all was rare, because it's difficult once you've been convicted to overturn a murder conviction.
What would be the meaning to us as a community if we let innocent people languish? Languish for days, months, years, decades, or maybe even sentenced to death.
You no longer have the presumption of innocence that we all enjoy. You're presumed guilty at that point, and the onus is on you then to prove that there's mistakes made here and you should have a new trial.
I'm angry for the loss of my father for 12 years. It's devastating to be the only kid in your class that looks out and doesn't see their father at a Christmas concert, but it was a situation that we had to live through, and we didn't know the difference. It was one of those things that you just got up every day and knew you could stay home and cry about it, or you could get up and live your life. We stopped looking for Dad in the crowd because we knew better than to look, because we knew he wasn't going to be there.
But I measured the loss a lot in looking at my children. My daughter in particular always kind of epitomized the lost years, if you will.
My mother died 2 weeks before I started grade 1, and my father made it to my high school graduation by about an hour.
What happened to me can happen to anyone, unfortunately, but when it does happen to someone, you better hope and pray that there's an AIDWYC-like organization out there to try and resolve the matter and unravel the snarl that your life has become.
To a certain extent, AIDWYC is a little bit like a court of last resort, because the people that apply to AIDWYC have usually exhausted their normal appeals. They don't have a lot of help, and so they're really relying upon the volunteers of AIDWYC to go out and do the sort of investigative and then legal work that is necessary to uncover a wrongful conviction.
Without AIDWYC, who do we have? We don't have anybody to fight for us.
As a teacher of criminal law, I rely upon many AIDWYC cases as I try to teach my students about the dangers and the realities of wrongful convictions.
You wouldn't need an AIDWYC around if the proper mechanisms were in place to review wrongful convictions.
AIDWYC is also doing work that's in the public interest so that we can learn from our mistakes and hopefully minimize them in the future.
It may be you or anyone like me who finds themselves in a situation where they are wrongfully convicted.
AIDWYC needs the support of all Canadians, because AIDWYC is literally doing this work on behalf of 35 million Canadians.
The institutions of law are human institutions. We make mistakes. Forget best efforts. Best efforts are not error-free.